I'm down to my last pill.
Yo, so we back in here for another edition of F-ya-Motha, and I was gonna start out with this video, but I figure I'm gonna show it and then give y'all commentary.
Hey yo, which era was the most dangerous to be outside? Shout out Teacher Man 91 back up. Salute them. Was it the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s, 08 to 2012, 2013 to 2020, or present day? For me personally, I believe it's definitely between the 80s and 08 to 2012. I'm not gonna hold you. 08 to 2012 was a different fucking time. Super duper treacherous, but it was super fun at the same time. It didn't make no fucking sense. It's like if you survived that era, you really one of the ones. You really liked that, or you dead ass was in the crib all day. Like that era alone was something serious, bro. The YBs, the YGs, OY, 1090. That was a different fucking time. What a time to be alive. Now, I'm not going to sit here and sleep on the 2013, 2020 era and the present day era. I ain't going to front, because they definitely do be wilding, but they just wilding with no substance. It's like they just straight up careless. They don't got that dog in them for real. They just a bunch of little niggas wilding with guns for real. You know what I mean? Ain't no fights. Ain't nobody getting jumped. It's just niggas wilding with guns. The 80s was fucking treacherous. I ain't even going to lie to you. Niggas was getting graped on roofs, nigga. Like, I'm not going to hold you. And nobody was doing nothing about it. It was literal serial rapists that were actual niggas that's from the block, like, you know what I mean, really supposed to be holding shit down, but they out there doing weird shit and nobody did nothing about it, bro. Like, the 80s was a treacherous time. There was no cameras, no surveillance, motherfuckers doing crime barefaced with no fucking repercussions. The 80s was a real treacherous fucking time. The 90s, the height of the fucking blood and the Crip and all of the other gangs, you know what I mean, the whole gang war shit. Yeah, it got that. The 90s definitely had its moments. I ain't gonna hold you. The 90s was a treacherous time too, but I don't think it was bad as the 80s. Now, the early 2000s definitely calmed down, you know what I mean? I feel like shit wasn't as bad during that little era, you know what I mean? Shit was more fun. It was more like about, you know, music and shit, you know what I mean? It gave You Got Served vibes, if you will, you feel me? It wasn't really crazy for it. Niggas was more so just chilling. But if I had to choose, it's definitely between 2008 and 2012 era and the 80s. But I think I'm gonna roll with the 80s. I feel like the 80s is a more treacherous time. The fact that motherfuckers was out there, gold chains, chilling, Gucci suits and all of that, and you going up to a roof to grape another nigga, bro, that's diabolical work. Like, what kind of Diddy shit, bro? And niggas was letting that shit slide. They wasn't even booming niggas like that. None of them niggas ended up missing, ended up gone 6 feet under, none of that. They was letting them motherfuckers just walk the streets like nothing even happened. The 80s is definitely dangerous as fuck. Not even gonna lie to you. Treacherous.
Yo, so we back in here for another edition of F-ya-Motha, and I just got done doing 2 videos talking about how niggas is crash outs and talk about violence is stupid. But I saw this on Instagram. I had to chime in, right? Because unfortunately, or fortunately, however you see it, I lived through all those eras. I was born in the 80s. I necessarily didn't grow, quote unquote, live through the era. I was a baby in 1983. But I remember 1989, and by the time the 90s rolled around, I heard stories about the 80s. And then when the 2000s rolled around, I seen a slew full of hood videos talking about the 80s, namely street characters like the real 50 Cent, Alpo, who else? Frank Matthews, Frank Lucas, Bumpy Johnson, Nicky Barnes, Guy Fisher. Right, with the DVDs like Smack and or was it Smack ULR? It was one of them shit hood DVDs, Forbes DVDs. They talked about rap niggas and street niggas. They mentioned Alpo, which that nigga killed 5 people. We gonna get into that. Feds magazine, Don Diva. They talk about rap niggas and street niggas, right? So I was fully caught up by the time. 2004 caught up. I was caught up on street niggas from the 80s, and from my assessment, The 80s was more treacherous than any era, and I don't even like how the fuck he broke up the eras. It should have been 80s, 90s, 2000s, 210s, 220s. He trying to break the shit up by 08 to 012. Like, what the fuck is a 4-year range that got nothing on 1980 to 89? Now, the 80s was more treacherous because, like I said, there were street characters like the real 50 Cent that robbed Rakim, LL Cool J, Alpo. He shot 5 niggas, dumped one nigga on the side of the road in DC, snitched on Wayne Perry, which was also a killer. I think Wayne Perry had about 19 bodies under his belt. I think 11 he was convicted for. Never mind street niggas. People forget that shit. Like, street niggas was the only people that was terrorists. No, we had the mafia. They was chopping up body parts. You got Tommy Karate Patera. I think I said his name wrong in another video, so I'm correcting it. This nigga was beating up people using karate he learned before he went to prison, and then when he got out, he not only whip your ass, but he chop your body up in pieces. I think his wife or girlfriend at the time was hanging out with some Jewish girl or some Irish girl, and they was doing heroin. He told her to stay away from the girl. The woman continued hanging out with the Irish woman. They got high as fuck and she OD'd on heroin. He went and actually cut the woman's head off and put it on top of the bar. Never went to prison for that shit. Now, he subsequently went to prison, but it was for other shit like killing other mafiosos. But this nigga was chopping heads, limbs and shit, putting in body parts and throwing it into the goddamn Hudson River. Very treacherous. Never mind mafia members. You got serial killers. I haven't heard of one serial killer, or at least they didn't give him a name. Nobody's been ringed in the 80s. I'm not going to go too far back, but I'll just keep it between Wayne Williams, allegedly, the B2K killer, which he was in the 70s, but they caught his ass in 2000s. He committed murders in the 80s. The Green River Killer. Who else? Richard Ramirez. I didn't name Ted Bundy because that was the 70s. It was a slew full of Jeffrey Dahmer in 91. What the fuck are we talking about? It was way more treacherous. Wasn't no cell phones. It was only pay phones. Nobody ratted, right? If people didn't know these people were killing people, not too many people talk. Nowadays, if you kill somebody, if it don't get caught on camera, closed circuit camera, or somebody's cell phone, somebody gonna get the dumbass on IG live and they gonna tell on you. So yeah, it's more dangerous. Now, the 90s, it was at the height of gang banging, and niggas was shooting, not because of colors, but color signified the opposition, right? I got into that in another video. I ain't gonna do it here. I remember when I was about 11 or 12 years old, we was somewhere on the CD part of Seattle, right? The Central District. I didn't say CD, I said CD, like CD, Central District. And some woman was in front of my mom, and I told her, I said, why don't you blow the horn? My mom said, I ain't blowing the horn. They might shooting in my car. Well, subsequently, a couple more years went by, and I heard about a shooting that happened on that same street where a woman honked her horn at a essay. They had Mexican gangs back in the days. I don't know if they got them now, but he was a cholo of some sort, right? She honked her horn. The nigga took a Uzi or some type of Mac 10 and fired into a car, shooting her 11-year-old daughter in the head. That's how dangerous it was. You could be outside, bullets was going everywhere. They was doing drive-bys like in Menace to Society. They was hitting old women coming out of gas stations. Niggas buying a pack of cigarettes was getting crazed and shit. It was a different time. Now, as it pertains to the 80s and this nigga talking about niggas getting graped on the roof, that must be some East Coast shit, because I'm from the Midwest and I lived out West Coast. Nobody was doing that weird shit, right? This is probably why the niggas got the lingo on the East Coast and niggas being pussy, because they wasn't doing shit. So you tell me niggas was getting, you know what I'm saying, hammered and then not saying shit or doing nothing, no repercussions. Yeah, you niggas a different type of sweet. That's not all New York niggas, but yeah, I don't that is something a little bit more diabolical. I was on the West Coast in the 80s and 90s. We didn't get down like that. If they did, motherfuckers was keeping that shit on the low, but that was some early 80s down low shit. Weirdo activities. Now, he right on the 2000s, to which I even have to mention that he looks like he's about early to mid 30s, so he don't know. I got a little bit more age up on him. So the 2000s, they was cool, but they was a little bit more laxed. When I was in college, I was able to holler at my mans. I was down here in the South, and I was able to holler at him to give me a 50 slab so I could serve this crackhead that I work with at Papa John's. That's some shit you wouldn't have been able to do in the 80s or 90s. I would have got robbed. Somebody would have put a snub in my back, and I would have been found in the ditch. So yeah, it was kind of sweet. And on top of all that, like he was saying, niggas was focused on getting money and pussy. So it was a little bit more calmer. Now the 2000s rolled around, and I think I was selling weed up until 2014. And to be realistic, I think I was 31, 32. I didn't have no problems. Nobody never wanted to get physical. I never knocked nobody out. So on that front, I have to say it wasn't that dangerous. Now I did have some people try to fill me out. So I don't, for other purposes, like the reason I stopped selling weed because I was somewhere up in a pool hall that I used to go to all the time on the east side, and some young nigga rolled up to me and asked me if I had that gas. I never saw this nigga, so I was like, yo, what you trying to get? And he was just like, oh, I ain't trying to get nothing. My people said you had it. So that made me feel like the nigga was trying to fill me out, and I didn't want to step on nobody's son. So I sold the rest of the little weed that I had, and I moved out of the state. Not because of that. I moved out of state because jobs was drying up, and I was tired of hustling and working menial jobs. So I think I took a 2-year sabbatical to Seattle, where my sister lives. And I can honestly say it wasn't sweet. Now, he said from the 2020s, it's not necessarily dangerous. If you in them streets, it's dangerous, right? But ain't nobody hitting you with a switch if you're a regular Joe. That's first. Back in the 80s, you could be a regular Joe. If somebody grew up in destitute poverty and their mom was on that base rock, you was getting a snub in your back and possibly getting found face down in a ditch or on a curb drain, right? That doesn't happen no more. Literally in 86, the height of the crack cocaine epidemic era, it was people getting found in broad daylight. Like, I've seen the videos. I got them. I got to like surf through them and find them. It was people getting shot and mugged in broad daylight. Like, it's a different time. No, I have now when somebody gets shot in broad daylight, it's either the police doing it or it's an altercation, but it's never as graphic as in the 80s. It was bodies in like in alleys, right? Niggas getting slumped in broad daylight, gunshots going off. Nobody gave a fuck because the police wasn't getting paid enough to patrol that area. It's a different time. And hell, I didn't even mention Dade County, Miami, Alabama, right? Banging in Little Rock. I think that was from 89 to like 93. I didn't even mention those areas in St. Louis, the Cabrini Greens in Chicago. Like, I didn't even mention that shit. It got the present day got nothing on those times. Even the 2008s, which you should have said 2010s, ain't got shit on the 80s. I don't give a fuck who you talking about. That was when the fucking Medellin cartel was prominent in New York, and they was chopping bodies up. That scene from Scarface where they're in a hotel and Scarface is wilding out and got to blast motherfuckers with the shotgun or with the Uzi and shoot the bitch on the bed with the shotgun, and niggas was getting blendered up in the bathroom and shit while they was handcuffed. That's literally taken from a real incident that happened in Florida. Let that sink in. And that movie was made in 1983. So yeah, like Griselda Blanco was at her height up until like what, 93? I think she was still in prison. I think she had got out in 93. Was fucking with some black nigga up until 95, to which they deported her ass in 96. Her sons was killed. Like, what the fuck are we talking about here? There's no comparison. I wish young niggas like either do their research or shut the fuck up. Even compare, you can't compare 80s or 90s rappers to niggas now. Niggas keep comparing Tupac to Kendrick Lamar, which is, I think, is a unfair comparison to Kendrick Lamar, because like he got nothing on Tupac. It's the same thing with like the criminal element. It was a lot more stronger. Dudes were tough. It's a bunch of soy boys running around with purses and 22s in a damn purse, or like they call it, a bag, a man bag, right? And niggas didn't have man bags. Hell, you was looked at crazy if you carried a backpack past 2005. I know, because I carried a backpack up until 2014. Yeah, it was a different time. Niggas wear skinny jeans now. Men were masculine. Men were tough as nails. Men actually killed men. Like, it was literally the jungle. Nowadays, it's a fucking zoo. You niggas is in captivity. Every now and again, a nigga lashes out, but for the most part, as long as you get fed, they don't want problems. Niggas don't want problems with other niggas. Niggas don't want problems with the police. Niggas stay on IG wolfing. And yeah, they got switches, but so what? In the 1920s, they had Tommy guns. What the fuck we talking about here? Niggas act like automatic weapons is some new shit. It's not. Nobody gives a fuck too. Like I said though, for the most part, if you mind your business, you don't really have to worry about nobody like taking you out. Back in them days, the 80s, you could be minding your business. You was the business. You might get taken out because like you could get taken out if you was around, you heard the wrong shit. Never mind doing the wrong shit. Niggas think like in the 80s you had to be doing something. No, you could be minding your business. If niggas was talking about drugs and your auntie was sitting in the living room, she got picked off just because she heard the wrong conversation. Niggas didn't want chance her running to the authorities and tell that they was selling bricks or cooking crack in her bathroom or in her kitchen. A lot more treacherous. Nowadays, these young hoes, they with the bullshit. They not gonna niggas know that they complicit. They not gonna tell on you. That's why a lot of them go to jail, because bitches be the ones actually calling the police on you because they didn't heard the conversation they shouldn't have heard. You know what I'm saying? But as a pretend, maybe is it a lot more volatile? It probably is. But is it as dangerous? No. I didn't even touch on kids getting kidnapped, women getting raped in parks like the Central 5. It wasn't them niggas, but I mean they caught the nigga that did it. But I'm just saying that was an everyday occurrence. Women were scared, especially white women were scared that they was gonna get abducted and, you know what I'm saying, get bamboozled back in the 80s. And nowadays you see a white chick jogging at 10:30 at night in Atlanta on the west side. What the fuck are we talking about here? There's no comparison. White women was on the motherfucking, they was on their P's and Q's back in the fucking 80s. I'm not saying they had to be, but they had to head on a swivel, because every night or every other night it was a white woman getting, you know what I'm saying, something happening to them. It was even black women, but that went unreported and the news didn't give it no limelight. But even Puerto Rican women and black women up north was getting savagely essayed. Nobody was saying shit, right? That's not the consensus now. Back in the days, I tell people all the time, the 80s and the 90s, I grew up in the 90s. The 90s was a lot more violent than 2026. 1996 was dominating 2026. Tupac got killed in 96. Name another rapper that got killed with over 200 people around. Whether the government did it, the gang members did it, or even Death Row did it. Even Nipsey Hussle was killed obscurely, right? Nigga came through on some sucker shit, shot 4 niggas and left. Now it was broad daylight, but it wasn't too many people out in the parking lot. Tupac was killed. Well, it was a plethora of people on the strip. Biggie was killed at a party function. Niggas was coming out and going in when Biggie was smoked. A lot more different than right now. Like I say about the 80s, LL Cool J was robbed by the real 50 Cent. Rakim was took stripped for all his dookie rope chains and rings, and his the fucking what he had, like a five knuckle ring. Yeah, the shit was taken off of him. Rappers was getting mugged. Scott LaRock got shot dead center in the fucking head. Somebody snipered that nigga, right? They could arguably say he was the first well-known rapper that was murdered before Tupac and Biggie. I'm not saying this to like try to draw comparison and try to be cool with some shit. I'm just stating the facts. Anybody trying to compare the 80s to right now can't do it. Anybody trying to compare the 2000s to right now can't do it. Anybody trying to compare the 90s to now, you can't do it. Those are 3 periods I remember vividly, and these periods I remember vividly. Now, every now and again, some obscene shit happens, some graphic shit happens, but that's not the consensus. Hell, crack cocaine sales are down predominantly. Nobody smokes crack. If you find a nigga selling crack or a crackhead smoking crack, you have 2 retards. They are on to bigger and better things. Fentanyl done moved in. They got bath salts. They got Molly. The heroin is making a comeback. What the fuck are we talking about? Cocaine is still here. It ain't never left. But to say it was more violent, no. It's a bunch of soy boys in the streets. And that's not to say tout like my era was ultra hard. People should be living in harmony and peace and love and happiness. However, let's not get it fucked up like we can draw a comparison. Like I mentioned with Al Pacino and Wayne Perry, niggas was serial killers. You don't have drug kingpins now. And the ones you do, either getting out of prison or going in. El Chapo just went to prison 7 years ago. Big Meech just get out. It's a different time now. You niggas are among the tectonic era, or the computer era, the AI era. Go chat GPC some crime, nigga. In any event, if you like this episode, you think Unc is bugging, leave it in the comments. If you think I don't know what I'm talking about and I don't gotta post to the streets, let me know. I mean, it don't matter what you tell me. You niggas is still pussy. In any event, I'm out.